in all. Okay. Um, it's good that I know a little bit about your background and I know what you want to become. And I want to make this a little bit useful for you. I will try to keep it interactive, but given the time constraint, if somehow I become a little bit fast, you can stop me. Okay, you can stop me. I can take questions in between or towards the end. I can take some questions. But I do want to say that I have a class afterwards, it starting at 5 p.m., although I did send an email to my students that I may be a few minutes late for today's class. Um, but feel free to jump in and ask any question that you may have. So today we're going to talk mostly about AI policy. Instead of me talking about AI and all the technical concepts you already know about AI, machine learning, neural network, and deep learning, and all sort of architectures, Gen AI, GPT models, and large language models, ChatGPT, and whatnot. I'm not going to talk about them, right? So for me, AI is just a general broad conception here for the sake of this presentation. So I'm taking a very general view of AI for this presentation. We're going to talk about how we deal with AI, how we deal with this technology. Okay, what should be the governance mechanisms around AI? Because everyone is talking about AI. You may have seen First Lady picturing today with a humanoid robot. So it happened just today. I saw it on Fox News. Uh, but okay, let me start. Let me okay. Okay. Okay, good. So let me show you something very familiar. You may have seen that. You may have seen this, right? In movies like Terminator, right? So basically, that's where AI is portrayed more like killer robots. And my question to you is, can AI be killer robots? Can AI work as killer robots? Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you don't think so? But I mean, there are real life dangers, at least, that we need to take serious. I mean, there may be some dangers and challenges, and we probably need to know about them. Um, you may have seen this. Let me show you this. It's real world. It's in a hotel in Japan. The name of the hotel is Henna Hotel. So basically, they had humanoid robots. Humanoid robots are robots which are morphologically, structurally, and functionally very similar to humans, right? If you see here. So they basically, those robots failed miserably. Uh, they could not respond to customers' basic queries. So they basically woke up customers around 2, 3 a.m. midnight because they took snoring for legit customer request. They failed. And eventually the hotel, Henna Hotel, had to fire those robots. Okay. And there are tons of incidents in real life. Obviously, as you see in this image, two people died in a self-driving Tesla Model S crashing the tree, right? And then over here, the cop is giving a ticket to, I think it's a Viamo in Southern California, right? So there are issues. There are real world concerns, not just Hollywood or Bollywood affairs, right? There are fears. So there are real threats. As you mentioned, it may not become a Skynet. It's not a doom scenario, doom world scenario, but it may become Skynet. And we need to be aware of. And there gotta be someone who can take care of these things, who can look into it, and who could regulate those technologies or govern those technologies. For this presentation, I'm going to skip the theory and methodology. This is part of the work that I'm currently doing, so I'm going to skip that part. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges posed by AI, some global approaches to AI regulation, including the United States, the UK, China. Um, I will also talk about some international treaties, and then we will talk about some alternative governance models. And then we will have a hybrid pathway for governing dealing with this technology. So obviously, some of you, obviously, as you are getting this degree, engineering degree, and when you graduate, you will be looking for jobs in places like, let's say, Microsoft and OpenAI and some other companies, right? So they do not only need engineers. Trust me, they also need someone who also know the social aspect of it and how AI is regulated. Like if you look around, the jobs right now being advertised by OpenAI and other companies, you would know that they are also looking for AI policy stuff. Someone who also know about the legal, social, economic aspect of AI, all those sort of repercussions that all these emerging technologies and AI technologies can have. So it's extremely important. That's what I wanted to mention. And again, I'm going to skip that part, but just to give you a background, you need to know about institutions. And at the same time, you also need to know, you need to be aware about the context. Context is extremely important. So basically, governance must address context and bias. And we also need to be aware of institutional context because they really show constraints that we have. So these are some of the challenges posed by AI. AI is just not a tool. It's shaping our jobs, it's shaping our privacy, it's even shaping our democracy. It has repercussions for individuals, for societies, and the economy. So, for example, talking about ChatGPT, uh, how many of you use ChatGPT or some other tools, Claude or any other tools? Anyone has played around, played with the tool? Anyone? Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yes.
good. That's good. I mean, it's great, but it could also lead you. It could also diminish. There's a ton of research coming out. Obviously, we are still in the preliminary days, but it may actually diminish your analytical abilities, such that if you rely too much on chat or on maps, you may lose that geographic sense, right? And some of you may have noticed that. But there are lots of issues now. We have deep fakes and AI influencers. We have with the AI, with the algorithm, the way it is, we have engineered addiction, and you lose that human touch, right? And then AI knows you. Some of you have TikToks, right? Uh, some of you have TikToks, right? TikTok algorithm is super powerful, right? I mean, it sort of knows you before what you do. So they know you. It shows you the same stuff that you are interested in, right? And it's very addictive, right? And there is potential for data misuse. And also it sort of push that content that may harm your mental health. And right now, we are in the world where every click is tracked. So all these things, well, we already had those things before AI, but now it's on steroids, right? um, and then it's not only about the personal aspects of things; it's also about there are things, there are fears, right? Uh, AI is actually shaking our society, right? We lose control. If you lose control of self-driving cars, bias is amplified. And then it's sort of leading to this tech divide, techies versus non-techies. And then most of these models require a ton of energy, right? And then there's also a challenge of cultural erosion, like what sort of data? Obviously, you all know about the importance of data, right? What sort of data are used to train AI? There are many cultures, right? Many nuanced cultures. All those cultural tones are lost because you are training AI on a popular culture or popular data sets, right? So you sort of lose that, lose those local voices. And at the same time, okay, I'm trying to. Okay, that's good. We have someone else, and at the same time, we have all these systems. You may have heard about, obviously, about explainable AI. Some of these tools, let's say, if AI makes a decision, sometimes the engineers they do not know what's going on, right? Let alone the public. right? These systems are opaque, right? So we have explainable AI, obviously explaining the outcome of AI, how AI makes a decision, what happens if AI goes wrong. But these are seismic, these are social disruptions that we see that are on steroids with increasing AI use in our society. And then it's also reshaping the economy. Like everyone is talking about displacement, job displacement, right? Even some instructors are worried, they may lose their jobs, right? So disruption, right? Displacement of jobs. And these tools, they do not talk to each other. Some of these tools, they do not talk to each other. So you're locked in an ecosystem, right? You are in sort of like an information bubble. So some of you may be using, let's say, cloud, or others may be using, let's say, chat GPT. And I'm not encouraging the use of either. I'm just saying, you may, and they are not really interoperable, right? They don't talk to each other, right? But sort of you may just live in your own information bubble, right? It's just like the social media that you use. So you get to see what you like, right? Um, and at the same time, these models could hallucinate, which has repercussion. So let's say if you are in a financial industry, and if you go to a and if you deploy AI or something, or a chat GPT or something, and if it hallucinates, or if it gives you a random information which does not have any basis or evidence, right? So you are in trouble. Your company is in trouble. There are issues, and then there was an issue of the copyrighted content. How is AI being trained? So, for example, major Canadian outlets are suing OpenAI because OpenAI is using all sort of data, right? It has that agreement with all these major outlets like Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and other major media outlets, right? If it is using that media content and if it is being trained, there are repercussions. And people like you, obviously, you have this technical background, but at the same time, if you can have a bit of policy background, you will be the one. Okay, give me a second. I don't know, something is happening. Give me a second. Yeah, that's good. So you will be the one um, and actually shaping the policy debates within those companies. And then it impacts democracy. Of course, we start, living in a polarized world. And if we only get to see what we like, there will be more information bubbles will deepen, right? And then the micro targeting in elections and electoral seasons are even amplified, right? Now you got money, it will buy you influence. So there are issues. And we all know about platforms censoring controversy, right? Like if you post something and if it's an opposite weave, it's not if it is not a dominant weave, so the Facebook moderating it, Meta moderating it, or let's say Elon Musk's X is moderating this feedback, your posts, you don't have any avenue to object them, right? So the platforms are censoring controversies, and at the same time, there's a risk of military use of AI. Now, we have all seen all those. I mean, there are tons of problems, and we can talk about them. So we need someone who could actually regulate AI. And there are so many there are emerging approaches, and nobody got the right way. Most countries are actually struggling on how to deal with AI. But here I'm going to talk about we do have some countries like South Korea, Vietnam now coming up in global South, playing with how AI could be regulated. But you see this animal, it's big, right? It's just hard to control. There are so many facets of it. There are so many dimensions of it. If you talk about policymakers, congressmen, and all those bureaucrats, they do not have the technical understanding of things, right? So if they don't have the technical understanding of things, it becomes challenging and regulating, even actually understanding the magnitude of this problem. While the problem is huge, we all know the problem is huge. I just show you a few facets of all the issues that we may have, because of AI amplification in our society. So these are some of the approaches. So let's say the EU, by far, so far, EU is first major region which attempted to have a broad legislation on AI. So they came up with EU AI Act. So basically, they regulate the technology. They regulate the technology instead of I mean, alongside the use, they regulate the technology itself, and they classifies AI system by risks. So, like, let's say social scoring. If an AI is doing social scoring, that would be completely unacceptable for EU, right? Or the use of AI in hiring and education. So that's a high risk area. So they have a classification of AI system by high risk and medium risk and low risk. But it's one of the major legislation. They started working on it in 2024, and I think it will be implemented sometime this year, 2026 and 2027. And some countries are actually in Brazil and Canada is following this approach, the EU approach. So it's very top-down approach. And then we have the UK. UK, on the other hand, is more use case regulation. So rather than regulating the technology, it's a use case, the application of AI. And instead of creating a new AI body, it's asking like the Information Commissioner Officer, ICO office, or the existing health offices, or finance watchdogs. It is asking them to regulate AI within their respective institutions and agencies. So it's a very use specific regulation in the UK. It's more flexible. It's more flexible, but it's at the same time, if you let all these institutions come up with their own ways to regulate AI, it's just it's less coordinated model. There's a risk of losing coordination, so it's a less coordinated model. Existing regulators basically deal with AI. As opposed to the UK and the EU, we have China. So it's more like centralized and targeted regulation. And they basically focus on content control and algorithms. So companies like Baidu and TikTok, they have to submit their the recommendation algorithm to CSE China, to the to the institution overseeing AI. So they have to submit their algorithmic recommendations. So basically, they want to see how you propose, how you make recommendations, and to whom do you make those recommendations. So it's about like it's sort of more like leaning towards like social engineering, the part of AI which could actually impact social harmony. So that's where China is, but it's very centralized and targeted regulation. As opposed to all these, we have United States. We don't have any single model actually. It's very fragmented and it's market driven, which sort of suits to the US's cultural, right? We don't have any comprehensive national AI, but we have executive orders. We have state laws, and we also have companies. You all know about OpenAI, Google, Meta. We have those companies, so they are doing their regulation. So we do have self-regulation. So, for example, this is one of the Trump, when the President Trump came in power the first time. So that was the first executive order, which was more about American leadership in AI. So how the U.S. could be a leader in AI. So that was more of, vis-a-vis China. As you can see here, these are the priorities for the first executive order that President Trump issued in his first term. And later on in 2020, again, we have now promoting trustworthy AI. So think of it as a checklist for federal government agencies. You guys are in Washington, D.C. There are hundreds of federal government agencies in Washington, D.C., right? So these are the key policy principles, key principles that the federal government agencies may follow. So these are like the a checklist for government agencies when it comes to AI regulation. And it was passed in 2020. Later, we have President Biden. So we see now a switch towards more like safe and secure, trustworthy AI. So it was the broadest US AI regulation effort up till now. Here we see sort of a switch toward like civil rights, data privacy standards, and global cooperation on safe and ethical AI, as you can see here. So, for example, for this particular executive order 14110, these are the policy areas. As you can see, number of requirements, and these are the policy areas issued, published by Stanford HAI. I mean, they analyzed this the executive order. So that's what we see. The first three things important for this executive order was consumer protection, equity and civil rights, and government AI talent. Obviously, we also see some other stuff like privacy, competition, intellectual property, military use of AI. So these it sort of gives you where the emphasis is, where the government was what the government was emphasizing during the Biden's administration. Now, fast forward 2025, last year, obviously you all know about it. So we sort of see that infrastructure, a push towards AI, towards building more AI infrastructure. That's why we see Project Stargate, which was a joint venture with companies. These companies, a $500 billion joint venture with these companies. We see an executive order on AI innovation. So this AI innovation, this executive order basically revokes all the prior AI regulations that were issued obviously by Trump's administrations as well as the Biden's administration. And it also mandated a new national AI action plan within 180 days. There were also export restrictions on various Chinese tech firms. They added the export tax firm to export blacklist. Um, the idea was to limit AI and computing, quantum computing advancements. Then there was AI action plan. It focused on innovation infrastructure and international leadership. Again, it was framed as America's roadmap to win the race. In November 2025, they issued Genesis mission, which was again an AI-enabled platform that connects the Department of Energy, national labs, supercomputer with data sets in AI augmented labs. And right now, we have actually in December, we are ensuring a national policy framework that was issued. So basically, the federal government challenged any state regulations that were deemed inconsistent with the national pro-innovation stance because we have 50 states and all those states have their own policies. So if something is inconsistent with the federal government pro-innovation stance and the deregulatory stance that Trump's administration likes, the federal government agencies, they will federal government is going to challenge those regulation, and they were actually threatened with like funding cuts and stuff. The states were threatened. So that's, and then we have global treaties on AI. So starting with the UK Bletchley Declaration, which basically prevented catastrophic misuse through AI, through collaboration, with the recent one, which just happened in India AI Impact Summit, happened in New Delhi in February, a month ago. So 100 countries, 18 countries participated. But the focus of this AI summit was responsible AI deployment, AI for impact, democratizing AI resources, and inclusive AI, including countries in the South in AI deployment, so they are not lost in the race. And then we had one very popular one in AI in Paris, in France, AI Paris Summit. Um, so basically, all these summits, and there was one in Korea as well. But the point is, it's sort of an exercise to build a global baseline for AI responsibility. These summits aim to create a Geneva Conventions for algorithm to build global consensus for AI governance. And then we have, I mean, these are great, but there are issues with these global treaties, right? Countries commit, and they self-impose some sort of rules and binding constraints on them and themselves, but it's nobody can watch them. It's hard to implement them. So these are issues. There are issues with these promulgations and binding constraints coming out of all those global treaties. So they're nice, but there's little action. And then we all know about AI arms. So everyone, I mean, if you start using AI in a military domain, it's it even need more careful use and careful governance. It need to be carefully regulated, and we saw that happening in the case of US and China. They agreed to keep AI out of decisions involving nuclear weapons, and that happened in the sidelines of APEC summit in San Francisco, where the leaders from both these countries actually agreed to keep AI out of nuclear military decisions, right? So the goal was to keep human in the loop in all those sort of very catastrophic, consequential decisions, right? And that's the closest we have come to an AI arms control. So the point here is AI safety is not just about tech policy, it's also a tool for global diplomacy, right? There is a rush towards AI on a global standpoint of view. And then there are other ways to handle AI. I mean, obviously, governments play a big role, but not all oversight come from the government. It could be industry self-regulation. Academics also have their own way of coming up with AI regulation and having an eye on what is happening around AI development and deployment. There are NGO, non-governmental organization, and civil society audits. And then there are some open source communities promoting transparency. Some of these may actually move faster and perhaps they're more adaptive than legislation. AI is evolving, right? So probably you need some tools that are more adaptive and that are more evolving. Regulation could be lagging and could be lagging and could be stickling at the same time. It maybe not be as flexible, may not be as adaptive. So can companies do self-regulation? Thinking about self-regulation, I mean, if I were to ask what are some of the challenges with self-regulation, like let's say if you ask AI to be their own overseer, to do oversight on itself. If I ask you, hey, this is an exam and you can monitor yourself. So, what are some of the issues with self-regulation? Anyone? Anyone?
Well, yeah, you'd have to rely on the model that's like being the judge to also be aligned. So it's like a recursive problem.
Yeah, exactly. So these are great. Obviously, Google and OpenAI know themselves more than anyone else. Probably they know the technology well, uh, but I mean, and it could be useful in domains like speech moderation, right? Where it's a sensitive area, right? Speech moderation. Government may actually, and government may not be in the best place to moderate it because it's a sensitive area. So this self-regulation could be helpful in those areas, but at the same time, we may not trust them. There may be some sort of curtail behavior. They may actually agree on some practices that would block competition. They could block competition. We don't want collusion. We don't want curtail behavior. We still want some competition, right? Obviously, there are these big players, all these fangs, big techs, right? And then there are small players in the peripheries working and developing lots of good apps and good technologies, AI tools, right? So you still want them. You still also want those small players to come up and to reduce barriers for them. So there are issues, and at the same time, there may not be transparency. There may not be transparency if you were to let the big tech their own watchdogs. So this is what we already have happening. Big tech firms, they have coalition companies from OpenAI to Google and Microsoft. And they support practices like watermarking AI content, third-party audits, security checks to prevent misuse. I'm saying this is not like a wishy-washy list. It is already happening. These are voluntary steps aimed to build public trust and avoid stricter regulation. But maybe someone may say these are just voluntary pledges and then they're not enough and they're just PR stunts. So can market competition handle AI? Market competition. Remember, there is consumer pressure, right? All those food companies, if they are going to make something, they need to post ingredients on the food items, right? So if publics can pay attention to those food ingredients, it is sort of an indirect regulation, indirect way to regulate those food companies, right? They cannot. But if the consumers are not paying attention to all those things, then obviously they have a way out. But the point being, consumer pressure and competitive dynamics, competition may also let handle AI. Okay. Markets may regulate behavior when people like us demand safer and more ethical AI, right? Reputation and trust is extremely important, right? Give me a second. Sorry. No, not me. I do need your help at 5:30. Not here, not here. Thank you. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Reputation and trust is extremely important, right? Reputation and trust drives business. So consumer choice, consumer pressure, all these can also sort of steer AI's deployment indirectly. Now, there are cores yeah, okay, there's a question. Yeah, please go ahead.
So do you think the consumer demand for like safer AI is like bigger than like just like consumers wanting like just like more capable AI? Because I think right now the dynamic is that people want more capable AI and they don't signal as much about them caring about safety.
That's a very good question, and I think most people they do prefer about capable AI and whatnot. But I foresee there will be a time when consumers will be demanding once all the sort of problems associated with AI come to horizon, people will
Yeah.
demand. People will demand, just like as we see in the case of, there's a whole market for organic food, right? There's a whole market for all these. We all know about it, right? So once people know about all the issues related with AI being advanced, I think consumer will start to demand more ethical and safer AI. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question, but you can go ahead.
Okay. We can go on and
Yeah.
maybe take a few questions later on
Yeah.
after a few slides. So we also have, what about judicial oversight? Um, so in the US, we have existing laws, we have privacy laws, we have tort laws. So maybe those laws could be applied to AI harms, to all those issues. We already have cases coming on the horizon, like Amazon discriminating against women employees or women candidates. Actually, this happened, right? Or you may know about HireView. How many of you know about HireView, right? HireView. It's a software, right, where you could actually conduct interview online, or you could record yourself and you could send them to employer, right? Now it could discriminate against many people with having accents, right? So there are already all those cases being challenged in the court. So the point being, we already have judicial oversight. We already have some existing legal principles, and those legal principles can provide a foundation, a baseline to look into some of these emerging AI issues. Okay. And they are case specifics. They are case specific. Regulation basically becomes a little bit passive. Obviously, you just wait for a problem to come and then respond. All right. Um, Court examine facts. Obviously, it's a case specific, but there are still many questions that need to be answered. How do developers, individuals, users share liability? Is a company liable if AI causes harms or fails to prevent it? Who is responsible if users misuse AI? And what if AI gives bad advice or a misdiagnosis? I mean, these are questions we have not answered. We don't have answers yet fully. So the good thing is courts respond case by case as technology evolves. This technology is evolving. This technology is evolving, right? But it could actually complement legislation. Legislation is slow moving. Some of you may be running for offices 15 years from now. Legislation is slow moving, right? So courts could actually complement legislation. And we already have existing, you may have heard about precedent. Precedent. If a court has decided something in the past, that serves as a strong legal foundation, right? Um, so court processes could be slow. That's a problem. But rewriting bad laws is also very slow. Okay. So my question to you is it better to let courts handle new AI challenges as they arise, or should governments act now with broad rules? Any guesses?
I think it's better to like act now, um, but also like have it be adaptive. Because like we don't know like the full situation of like what kind of like problems we might run into. So if we
Exactly.
wait, that there might be like really big problems that like we
Good
could have
point.
like foreseen if we wait for like the courts to handle
Very good point. Very good point. I think there's another hint. Okay.
Yeah. I also to like follow up with what you were saying, I kind of think the opposite. I think people will learn after the problem happens. I think if you tell, well, obviously, like it's good to have the broad rules now, but people won't know what AI is until after they see the problems and see the error of AI.
Okay.
So
Yeah. No, it's a good approach. Both of you are right, which is why I'm saying you want to complement. What if we complement, legislation or the government approach, government's regulation with the court's approach. So I think that's where we are heading in the next few slides. Good point. Fair enough, both of you. Thank you. Uh, what about government support? What about government support? I mean, instead of this punitive type of approach, what if governments actually guide AI, safe AI deployment through subsidies, public-private partnership, and other strategic investments? And this has been happening in other countries and even in the US. Like, for example, in the US, in New York, a $20 million public-private partnership with IBM, New York State, and universities for AI project happened in New York State. Same is the case in California. Um, so government support a positive approach, right, where you could actually incentivize the use of or the deployment and development of safe AI, like NSF, National Science Foundation. You may have heard about it. NSF has its headquarters, I think, in Alexandria, Virginia, not far from where you are in Fairfax. That's where I used to be when I was doing my PhD, and in Arlington, obviously. But what if NSF or NIH, start to support a safe deployment of AI in various applications in physical sciences or health domains? And how about personal AI? Well, you may have read about personal AI. So it's like your own AI in your pocket, right? I mean, it's a dream. It's a dream because we all rely on some sort of, you still need that cloud storage, right? So even if you have personal AI, you still need that cloud from, let's say, Amazon or Google, right? So there are still issues with that, but it may be a dream. I mean, if you think about Alexa and Siri, that's sort of like a narrow version of personal AI. They sort of understand you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
like, what are your thoughts on like, have you heard of Claude code? Because I know that's like a AI where it's like, you add it to your computer and it just takes over. Like, you basically give it full permissions and of your computer to allow it to like do like crazy stuff. I don't know
Yeah,
if you heard of that.
I think I have heard of it. It's sort of a narrow version of personal AI. So personal AI would be something like it will do everything for you, scheduling your doctor's appointment and your meeting
Yeah,
schedule.
that's what it does. At least what I've seen is that people set it up to like give them reminders, set dates, email for them, even access their bank account.
So it is still like with Claude, right? Claude, right? So they have access to your data.
Yeah.
That's the problem. If they have
Yeah, it's
access
like
yeah,
I'm sorry.
there you go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Like I think the you just what they how they set it up was like you give us because like you'd add it to whatever computer, like give it its own computer, and then whatever like data or information is in the computer, it has full access to. That's like the um like kind of safety is like the consequence of going into it. You know what data you're feeding it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's personal, that's heading towards personal AI. For me, it will be something that is, that has its own cloud, not owned by all those big techs. It understands you, it understands your emotions, It serves as your therapist. I know it's scary. It serves as your professor, and it take care of your job applications. It take care of your groceries and everything, right? So if that's something possible, I'm not sure if that maybe, but with the Claude and other large language models, obviously they're getting better in integrating with your existing technological tools. It is heading towards that direction. But I think, it still has a long way to go. I know there is like Replica. You may have heard about the tool Replica software app. And it sort of gives you information about your emotional health and stuff if you ask around. But I think we're not quite there yet. Sorry, go ahead. You have a question or comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding like the local like personal assistant AIs, there's a recent case with like a meta like alignment super like lead who like gave like one of these like AI agents like full control over email like inbox, and it's just started deleting stuff. So I think that was a relevant, yeah. And I wanted to like mention that like it is possible to like run open source models that are like not as like capable as the frontier models. But like they're still like pretty capable. Like a couple of months ago they might be like frontier.
Okay.
And you can like if you have the hardware for it, you can run it. And like you can like give it access to your computer. You can even like take off like restrictions on it and like have it be like uncensored. So like I think like I was gonna mention this as like another question. Like how do you like even regulate something like that? Because it's not like a centralized server. You can like say, oh, like the centralized company or like a centralized like location where you can like the government can regulate. It's just like individual people with like hardware. So like how do you like regulate something that's like so hard to like track?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that's where we're risking. I mean, it's not easy. If it would have been easier, people would not be talking about it. I don't have any good answer to this one because it's like you are just intruding my personal space. This is my personal AI. It's a truly, fully autonomous private GPT. Let's call it private GPT. And I think there is a tool like private GPT, right? It's local AI. I don't house it on somewhere else on a big tech. I have it. I have the full control of it. Maybe I don't want anyone coming and regulating it. I don't know, but you're right. We are heading towards that direction, and it will be challenging. It will be challenging for sure, to say the least. Um, okay, but in terms of personal AI, it's good. You may say it's potentially less biased. It may increase your productivity and emotional well-being. Um, but there are issues, obviously. You may reinforce, like it's somebody, I know someone who was playing around with ChatGPT. The professor from George Mason University actually was saying something else, and this guy goes back to a PhD student, goes back to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is hallucinating and giving him wrong information, and then comes back and say, "Well, ChatGPT says this to me, and you are saying this." So now you're trusting ChatGPT more than your professor. So sort of, as we already see, that personal biases are reinforced, and it sort of gives you a response that you want, that you like, right? Not essentially the correct one. So you may see more filter bubbles, and obviously there will be huge security risks if they are misused. So conclusion is, I mean, I gave you some alternative visions, right? Maybe personal AI. Maybe the government need to have more sort of that positive support. Maybe we need to have more judicial oversight. Maybe we also need to have market handle AI. So these are various ways we could think about it when it comes to AI regulation. US has been moving fast in AI innovation, as you guys mentioned, right? We are almost there in terms of, let's say, personal AI, although I don't think the same way, but let's say we are, things are coming, things are pretty scary, things are on the horizon right now. Regulation in itself is slow. It's not as responsive. It's not as adaptive. Okay. So far, what we have in the US, it's self-regulation. We have only incremental legal and executive actions. And obviously, these executive actions are also unpredictable. and they could be just revoked by anyone, by any new administration, right? So maybe, I mean, that's just what I think. Maybe it's a rational strategy. The way the US is, the way US market is, maybe this is what we need here in the US because the technology is evolving rapidly. Maybe we don't need the Chinese type of system because we are not used to that type of setup in the US. We still want our freedom, right? Maybe we are not, so those systems obviously they do offer some qualities and some good information, but maybe they are not as helpful in the US context. Um, Maybe the rational strategy is to let the technology evolve and let the way things are going, the way things are, or we could combine all the stuff that we have been talking about. Maybe maybe blend a legal, regulatory, and market approach in a better way, in a better framework. Use existing legal frameworks. We already have some laws, as I mentioned. We have contract laws, we have tort laws. The courts have already handled many types of similar cases. So instead of reinventing the wheel, avoid reinventing the wheel, use those principles. And obviously, some common sense principles like public interest principles, like privacy, right? Accountability, stuff like that we already have those frameworks. Maybe use those to guide the development of AI. And of course, federal government agencies can define the standards. The standards could be evolving because the technology is evolving. So they could come up with standards, the federal government agencies, Fed, and those standards could be evolving. And at the same time, we also need market competition, market pressure, informed consumers, people like you who already know about the technology. And at the same time, we need to invest more in AI for public benefit, education, healthcare. So that's like the positive role of AI. Okay. So it's more like a layered approach. Okay. Layered approach. Uh, so that's what lead me to conclude this presentation. I just wanted to show you this. Obviously, I gave you some snippets of information. It's not necessarily that I solved all your concerns. Maybe I just made you a little bit more intrigued. Um, but if I have done that, I think I would call it success. But you should know that AI policy is on the radar. People are talking about it. This is like today's footage from Fox News. The first lady is, behind this humanoid robot, as I mentioned earlier, right? So they're talking about the use of AI for education and other purposes. And President Trump's unveiled a national AI legislative framework a few days ago on March 20th, about the use of AI, global AI leadership, AI use in education, and stuff like that. So you need to have all those conversations in mind to be on top of things. It's high time to study AI and AI policy alongside your engineering stuff that you are doing. And here I have a few resources if you're looking for fellowships and stuff like that. These are organizations. Some of them are based in Washington, D.C. They have their summer fellowships and stuff like GovAI, and IAPS, Institute of Advanced, I forgot the acronym, but you can look it up. They have AI policy fellowships up so it's Institute for AI Policy and Strategy, IAPS. So they have summer fellowships. They are looking for people like you, and it's right next to you in the neighborhood in Washington, D.C. area. So maybe you can look it up. And this is my email address. I'm obviously available anytime you want to talk to me on these issues. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And I'm here to take a few questions. Then I have to rush to my class, which starts at 5 p.m. But that's okay. I have told my students I may be a few minutes late. It's a long class, 3 hours long class, so that's fine. We are taking early break in that class. Any questions?
I had a question about like non-US like companies
Yeah,
and like how they can like impact like AI regulation. There's like this concept called middle powers.
yeah,
Like like Taiwan and like the Netherlands, they have like influence over like the supply chain for like hardware.
yeah,
So like having using that influence to like kind of have a say in AI. Because like right now, like all the leading like models are like primarily based in the US. with some maybe like sort of being related to the UK. And then the Chinese like models are like open source, but they're like also like lagging behind. So like it's primarily the US who's like who kind of influences everywhere else. Because you can make a law about like AI, but like if the place that's like making the AI doesn't have that regulation, it's like not really useful. So like using that influence on like the hardware supply chain to like impact like AI policy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean it's a different area. Geopolitical AI has, as I mentioned, it has it's not about tech policy on in the US, but also the global diplomacy. So it's a tool. They can use their influence, metal powers, and they are using some of those metal powers. Obviously, Taiwan is a big, obviously, supplier of semiconductor industry, so they have a huge say. But not many countries are Taiwan, right? So they do, and I think we need those conversations going on, and we need those voices just because we don't want that. I mean, at the same time, we do want AI because I'm in the US and I do want AI leadership to be in the US, but at the same time, we want to be inclusive enough. So that's what I wrote a paper on it, AI for low-income countries. Because there's a big power. It's China versus US. So if you have the AI leadership, obviously it's going to be your say and your hegemony. If it's going to be Chinese, so but at the same time, we do want those voices to be included in AI conversations. Any other comment? Can I take a?
Um,
Oh, sorry.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is it possible to take a screenshot of this, whatever, just for me to give it to my department,
Oh,
if you guys are
I'm
okay
good,
with
you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
it. Thank you very much.
All
Thank
right,
you.
everybody, three, two, one, cheese. I'm gonna get one more with everybody in the picture. I'm just getting one more. One second. All right, let me see if I can expand everybody's picture.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. One second, guys. Sorry about that. Just trying to figure out how speak. Okay, that's cool. Okay, there we go.
You got this?
All right, three, two, one, cheese. All right, there we go. I got it. I'll send
Thank
you an
you.
email.
And one of this one, I'm sorry. I know
Of
I
course.
okay, one just this one.
Perfect. All right, three, two, one, cheese. All right, I got it.
Wonderful,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Isabella, you had a question?
Yes, I was just wondering if you would like want to share your thoughts maybe on balancing the interest